When I first went vegan, protein was my biggest challenge. And as a protein-focused athlete, I worked hard to learn about plant protein. And it filled most of my waking thoughts for many months on end. And looking back, I was a little bit nuts over protein. So a quick backstory on why protein is important, especially if you're plant-based, vegan, or aspiring to be vegan. When I first started lifting weights, I started at my local Planet Fitness. And my goal at the time was to build muscle. I was scrawny and small for most of my life, and I wanted to kind of put this to an end. So I started lifting. And unfortunately, my knowledge of nutrition was very low at that point in my life. So I thought that just lifting weights would sculpt my body and build a lean toned body. And while I gained some muscle, I also gained quite a bit of unnecessary body fat. And at the time I was working at 2 Italian restaurants. I had just been promoted to manager at the main restaurant. And I spent about 12 to 13 hours a day at work each day. And I'd come home with boxes of pizza and cannolis and pasta dishes. And we got to keep any of the leftovers from the day from work. And I thought I was getting enough protein because I was eating a lot of pasta and I was getting a lot of pizza and I was just eating so much in general. So 19-year-old logic is apparently very low. But eating pizza and pasta doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting protein, even if it has some protein on top of it. And not to mention the amount of dairy and the meat that I ate at that time wasn't doing my health any favors either. So again, my nutrition knowledge was pretty low, but we live and learn, right? And at that point, I had started to learn how to lift and I was starting to increase my weights in each of my workouts. But I still struggled to really understand macros and calories in my diet. And years later, when I became vegan, nutrition started to become my obsession. I focused on the macronutrients, the micronutrients, caloric intake, and I learned some of the best plant-based sources for protein. And these sources can help with fat loss, muscle building, sports performance. And to my surprise, there was more options than I had initially thought that there were. And no, it wasn't just all tofu. So in this video, we're gonna dive into the top 7 vegan protein sources. I'll include a link to an article I wrote on each protein source for those of you who'd like to read, and I hope you find it valuable too. So let's dive in. Let's look at these plant-based protein sources. Number 1, tofu. Well, I had to start with the classic vegan protein source here, but let's add some context here too. Each option here is classified as a true protein. So each option has protein as a main macronutrient, but it also contains small amounts of carbohydrates and fat. And you could call these primary plant proteins. So secondary plant proteins, which are also viable options, and I'll discuss near the end of the video if you'd like to hear, is a little bit different. So number 7 is gonna be a little bit of a hybrid option, so stick around for that one. But tofu is a mainstay in our kitchen. With about 8 grams of protein per 100 grams, getting 16 to 20 grams of protein per plate is pretty easy. So a quick fitness tip here. If you pair tofu with a carb source like chickpeas, lentils, or chana masala, this combination will double your protein intake right away because the carb sources listed above are mainly carbohydrates, but they're also secondary proteins. They're gonna provide you more protein, but don't mistake them for true protein sources. And as a side note, I primarily eat organic soy since soy in the United States is GMO, but that's just my preference. Number 2, tempeh. Now, tempeh comes in second, and by the way, these weren't put in any order of highest or best, but it comes in at number 2 with 19 grams of protein per 100 grams serving. Tempeh is a powerhouse and it's one of our favorite proteins. Using the tactic that I mentioned above with the secondary primary proteins, with high protein carbs makes getting 30, 40 grams of protein in each meal pretty easy. Now, tempeh is a high protein source. You can also make your tempeh at home, which we did before back when we lived in the United Kingdom. And I remember getting our little lamp and our light, and we had our cardboard box, and we grew our tempeh from scratch, which was pretty cool, but it takes a while to grow. So the tempeh, if I remember correctly, it came out pretty good. But like I said, it's a bit of a time investment and extra work. So nowadays we just buy our tempeh from the stores. And one of the things I really like about tempeh is the crunchy texture compared to tofu. You can marinate tempeh, you could layer it onto lentil pizza or serve it on a kale salad. It's versatile and it works really well for many plant-based meals. If you add tempeh to your plant protein lineup, you're gonna love it. So try it out. Number 3, seitan. Per 100 gram serving, seitan comes in at a whopping 75 grams of protein. And that's a lot. and it's more than you'll ever need in one serving, to be sure. And seitan's high protein intake comes from wheat gluten. It's tasty and it's a great protein when struggling to hit your protein goals. Just one thing to be aware of or mindful of is that, again, because seitan does come from gluten, if you have any sensitivities or allergies or any discomfort with gluten, maybe it's not the best option to use this particular protein source. If you don't have any sensitivities, seitan can be a great addition to your protein arsenal. Seitan also has a little bit more of a meatier texture. So for those who miss that texture, seitan can really hit the spot. And as I mentioned before, protein has been a big focus for me the past 8+ years since I've gone vegan. It was really tough when I first started using plants as my main protein source. I want to take a quick pause here and share a quick reminder on why protein is discussed so much. Protein or amino acids are the building blocks of our bodies. And the thing is, they help repair, rebuild, and reconstruct our body's shape. And people also overemphasize protein. Most of us don't actually need so much protein from a health perspective. From a fitness perspective, protein can be a little bit more of a valuable ally for toning up and dropping body fat. Specifically for fat loss phases, protein helps you keep muscle while prioritizing dropping body fat. And protein's primary purpose for muscle building is to help you build new muscle. So protein has become a very relevant part of the conversation about nutrition for fitness. But doctors like Dr. Greger and Dr. Bernard are correct that we don't need that much protein for health. It's just that most people who would like to be healthy, lean, and strong have that as their primary goal. So the elusive goal of blending health and fitness into a unified system is important. So I just thought I'd drop that as a quick disclaimer before moving on to number 4. Let's keep going. Number 4, minimally processed vegan mucks. And there's a bit of controversy around some of these protein choices. And I found that companies with minimally processed ingredients are helpful, especially when you're traveling and you need protein on the go. And clear ingredients list makes it a lot easier to choose the right options. Protein intake can range anywhere from 8 grams per 100 grams of serving, all the way up to 30+ grams of protein. I won't name any specific brands since brands change and they're specific to local markets. However, I will share a word of advice. Be mindful of the ingredients. There's some unscrupulous companies that are taking advantage of the plant-based and the vegan movements, and they're using this as an opportunity to create lab meats, which is actually real meat made in a laboratory. And other companies promote their products as plant-based, but they aren't really vegan. And so other companies, they use biological engineering to create their foods. And this basically means that they rely on animal products, but they prefer you not to notice. And so 2 of the big names in the space, Beyond Meat and Impossible Meat, I would say deserve a little bit further investigation. And my criteria when using vegan mocks is pretty simple. Number 1, can I understand the ingredients? Number 2, is it non-GMO or organic? And then number 3, is there anything that I don't feel comfortable with? So do your research and question accordingly. Let's go to 5. Edamame. 17 grams of protein per 100 grams of serving isn't too shabby. Edamame can go sometimes under the radar. It packs a solid plant protein punch from soy pods. It can help you really jack up your protein intake. It also works really great with soups and salads and just anything that requires a side dish, which is anything. If you pair this with high protein carbs, and you're really set for a high protein meal that's made pretty easily. And one of our favorite ways to use edamame in our kitchen is in salads. It's great with a big kale salad with sweet potatoes and grains and maybe even some extra tofu or tempeh. And it'll fill you up pretty quickly and give you that extra protein kick that you need without feeling hungry for hours on end. Give it a try and add it to your plant protein list as well. And we're getting near the end of our list, and the last 2 plant proteins here might be a little bit more interesting. So let's see what happens. Number 6, plant protein powder. And I've used protein powders for years. And what's interesting is that even omnivores, they struggle to hit their protein goals. And as an omnivore most of my life, I still remember struggling with this. In fact, I remember trying to hit my protein goal even when I had chicken breast and tuna and all the other protein sources. And my daily intake during fat loss phases is closer to about 170 grams per day. And while this might seem high or low, nearly 200 grams of daily protein isn't easy. Protein powders, minimally processed again, has been one of my secret formulas for winning in the protein game, and especially for keeping muscle mass. And my favorite way to use them isn't just as a protein shake. Oatmeal bowls, smoothies, applesauce, yogurt, homemade protein bars, whatever we can add protein powder to, we'll do it. And that's how you avoid drinking protein powder all day. You see, protein intake ranges can go from anywhere from 15 grams up to 30 plus grams per serving. And I'll also add that I've eaten raw vegan and I've also eaten fruitarian for extended periods of time. And I did this to regain my health and to heal from a chronic autoimmune disease. So I understand the pushback from the whole food plant-based community on protein powder and even many of the options that I've shared here today. And ironically, I probably won't hear so much pushback on option number 7, which isn't a primary protein, but hey, what can you do? But protein powder can make things 10 times easier when you're actively trying to drop body fat while retaining muscle, which again, this is the primary goal of 95% of vegans that I speak to. So if your goal is to get lean and strong while creating sustainable results, keep these things in mind. Let's go to 7 and finish up here. High protein plant carbs, lentils, chickpeas, beans. All of these are carbohydrates. They're classified as carbohydrates, but they also pack a heavy protein punch. Again, 8 to 12 grams of protein per serving. Now, if you combine these with any of the above options, you're gonna be sitting nicely per protein in each of your meals. And this also gives you a healthy boost of carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates are important for building and keeping muscle. And while carbs get a really bad rap, they're pretty important for our health. They fuel your brain, liver, and most of your major organ functions. I'll also add that black beans and lentils are still classified as carbohydrates, but they have secondary protein. And if you pair them wisely with some of the main proteins listed above, you can easily get 30 grams of protein per meal with little to minimal effort. And the only pitfall is this: if you're in a caloric deficit, if you're trying to drop body fat, just be a little bit mindful of your macronutrient split. Focus on getting enough protein, especially based off of your ideal body weight. Carbohydrates should then come secondary in order, and then fat should be the lowest in priority. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking at the order priority for macronutrients. So for example, if your deficit puts you at about 1,600 calories per day, the next step will be to calculate your ideal protein intake based off of your ideal body weight. Now again, after that, you'll then add in carbohydrates, then include some fats, and that'll complete your meal plan. And this usually looks like a 35% protein, 45% carbs, about a 20% fat ratio. But again, this is a general estimate, so it's not the holy grail. So each of us should have specialized targets for our current fitness goals. And one thing that I'll say for my own fitness journey has been learning to focus on my specific goals and not just trying to copy someone else's workout or their macros or their meal plan or whatever they're doing, and really just focusing on the context of my health, the context of my fitness. Like, what is the parameters that I want for myself? What are the goals that I'm aiming for? And then working backwards from that, what standards do I need to have in place for my macros, my calories, my workouts, my lifting, all that, all the behaviors that goes into creating a lean, strong body? What does it mean for me? And how does that fit in the context of my life, my schedule? And I think that learning to stop copying what other people are doing has really made a big difference in my life. It's a big reason why I still invest pretty heavily into coaching and instruction for my own workouts and my fitness, because the learning never ends, right? And I think one of the things that I've fallen into the pitfall of, kind of like the know-it-all syndrome, right? Especially being that this subject matter is something that I do know a lot about. But at the same time, it's so easy to fall into that pitfall of you thinking that you know it all. And then the reality is you look back 3, 4, 5 years later and it's like, oh, things haven't really changed that much. I'm pretty much the same, give or take a few pounds, give or take, a couple pounds of muscle. And I think for me now, being a busy father, a busy husband, and, being a coach and supporting a lot of people in their fitness, I think it's important for me to not put myself at the bottom of the priority list. And I know that's something that I hear a lot from a lot of the men and women that we serve in their fitness, is that putting themselves, being at the bottom of their priority list for years on end has been the status quo. And so these are the 7 plant-based protein sources that I've used in the past, and I still use the majority of these consistently for my fitness. So let's do a quick recap here and then we'll wrap up. Number 1, tofu, tempeh, seitan, vegan mox, edamame, plant protein powder, and then high protein carbs. If you've been vegan for a while, let me know what are 1 or 2 plant proteins that you've enjoyed using. If you're aspiring to go plant-based, what are a couple of these that maybe you've tried or you would like to try? Let me know below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And we'll wrap up with this. So believe in health, and it's always possible. Talk to you soon.